morning. Welcome back to our family podcast, which I called Real Talk with the Westfall Girls, and apparently that's not the name. Apparently the name is
Beyond the Sale with the Westfall Girls.
Correct.
Let's talk about deal breakers.
Okay, deal breakers for buying?
Yes.
Okay. What's a deal breaker for you? Personal deal breakers or what our customers are saying?
Both.
Yeah, let's start with personal deal breakers.
In this climate, a personal deal breaker for me would be a house that's repeatedly flooded.
Yeah, I agree.
Is somebody dying in the house a deal breaker for you?
No.
Me either.
Me either. No.
But it is a question I get asked often is, did someone die here?
It is a question I get asked often as well, and I'm surprised that a lot of people think that it is a deal breaker for them, but
What amazes me is that so many people want to die at home. They don't want to die in the hospital. They don't want to die in an assisted living. They want to die in their home. But then when it comes time to buy, they don't want someone to have died in the home.
if someone died in the home, do you feel like the seller needs to disclose it, or it's
Legally, they do not need to disclose it.
right, but ethically?
No. I mean, if somebody,
How did they die?
if Hafta
Exactly.
comes
Were
into
they-
your house and you die a peaceful death, why should that? I don't.
But if you were brutally murdered by a cult, that might be a little bit different.
Do you have to disclose, or should you disclose that?
Probably.
Because I think more people would have a problem with that, but that's more of an ethical thing. It's still legal, you don't have to disclose it. However, if somebody died because they died of natural causes or they died of cancer in the home, to me, that's a different story than somebody was brutally murdered in the home.
I've experienced both.
What about if someone heavily smoked in the house to where you can move a picture frame and you have like the yellow ring around the pictures?
Not a problem for me.
Not a problem for me because they make kills paint. And if you kills paint it enough, you'll never know. Replace carpet and all that. So not a deal breaker.
Your first house was just like that?
My first house was heavily smoked in, and I just sold a house that was heavily smoked in, and it didn't bother either of us. We both agreed you can just paint over it. We can rip out cabinets and flooring, and if it's the location and everything else that you want, then smoked in's not a deal breaker for me.
And the odor in general.
Yeah, not a deal breaker for me either. The only odor that is a deal breaker for me is cat pee because it is really, really hard to get out.
Especially if you have wood floors.
It soaks in.
Not a concrete slab.
How about no garage? Deal breaker for you?
Deal breaker.
Is there ability to add a garage?
No.
Most likely no. Most Rickies are regular.
Then is there a carport?
No garage.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
I don't even park in my garage, and it's a deal breaker for me.
I think with deal breakers, people also have to look into that they have to get out of their own head that it may not be a deal breaker for them, but is it going to hurt them on resale? I always think about resale.
So I think kind of building on that, what do you think is not necessarily a deal breaker, but would be nice to have versus what's a must have?
Like, what are we seeing with our buyers right now? Like, what they prefer?
Yeah, like what's just a preference? I prefer to have a fenced in yard. It's not a deal breaker not to, but it's definitely on my must have list.
Anything you can add after the fact would be nice to have, but isn't a must have, like a fence.
A fence. A big one that yesterday I was showing property and the lady kept saying, I really want a screened patio.
Yeah.
There was a patio. It was under roof. It was under shingle roof. And I kept telling her to screen it in is not that expensive. And she's like, I don't want this house because it doesn't have a screened patio.
Or when people say, I don't want a house if it doesn't have a new roof. That's easy,
I mean, it's money, but it's easy.
but it's easy.
It's also possible to wrap the price of the roof into the sale sometimes. So it's not completely out of the question.
And right now, it's possible to get sellers to pay for a lot of these things because it's a hard market to sell. So there's a little bit more negotiating power.
I think the things you can't change are the must-haves. The neighborhood, the school district, the view or your lot, the layout, the basic square footage. Those are things you can't change. So those are the things you don't want to really.
You can change layout to an extent.
Yeah, I say look at the bones instead of the
But
layout
you can't make a
necessarily.
two-story or one-story. So
Yeah.
things like that.
A 2-story is not a deal breaker for me necessarily.
A 2-story is not a deal breaker, but it's definitely not preferred.
In this, I guess it depends on neighborhood, but if you're in a retirement community, a
Two-story will kill you.
Yeah. But if you're in a family community with a large square footage, a 2-story may be desirable.
And a two-story with a master down is better than a two-story with all the bedrooms up.
Yes.
For sure. What do you think your buyers are seeing right now? Do they want newer construction or older homes?
They want what I see a lot is they would prefer older homes, but it's too tempting to go with new construction because of the incentives. So I'm finding most of my, especially first-time home buyers, are leaning towards new construction. One, not only are the incentives hard to beat, but it's brand new, completely under warranty. Everything's at its full life. So you have a 30-year roof, you have a brand new AC that's gonna last 10 years, etc. Versus buying an older home. Now you have to keep in mind the age of all those things and budget for the end of the life of those things. So just for peace of mind and simplicity, a lot of people I have are going towards new construction.
The only bad thing about new construction is you are in an HOA. There is no new construction that's not on a cookie cutter lot, in a cookie cutter house, in a cookie cutter HOA. So if you don't like that vibe, new construction is practically impossible to find.
I actually have a lot of people not looking for new construction just because they are specific on either location or they want bigger bedrooms and different layouts than the new constructions are offering. A lot of the new constructions, you have limited options as far as layout goes. So, like my people on Beach Street, they really liked that it was a unique layout, which they couldn't find when it.
I think we're also two different markets. Brittany services more Jacksonville and St. Augustine, and you're down here in Ormond, and they just have a lot more new construction up there.
For us, and it's completely exactly. When I shop here, everybody leans towards the older homes, and that's because structurally they are usually better, a little bit better built, or have the larger bedrooms, or have character like brick and beams like this one, things like that. Where in Jacksonville, my new construction, the amenities are incredible. So everybody is choosing the new construction for the resort style amenities. They don't really have that here, but in Jacksonville, that brings so many people in, is to have these like lazy rivers and beach entry lagoons.
About old construction, I would never personally buy new construction, but I do have a lot of customers that do, and I get it. But what I personally like about older construction is that you tend to have trees. New construction, not a lot of trees in new neighborhoods.
Mature landscaping.
Mature landscaping.
Depending on the
Bigger
buyer.
lots. Bigger lots have, like, I live in an HOA and I don't mind an HOA. But my HOA is not like a cookie cutter HOA. It's got big lots, lots of trees, different, every house looks different, which I like. A lot of character in each house, but my house was built in 1980. So it still is an old house.
I'm in a new construction. My house was built in 2014. I bought it in 2016, so I bought it 2 years old. It was still new. My neighborhood's very cookie cutter. You had like 4 different build options. You could pick one of the 4, and you are one of the 4. Every single house in there.
When you drive through your neighborhood, they're different houses, but they're all one of the 4.
Right.
Let me move into the next category. If you're not in an HOA and you're representing a buyer, you go look, and the house next to you is yucky looking, like run down, abandoned. Is that a deal breaker?
Nope.
Are your buyers saying that's a deal breaker?
Are you saying no out of personal experience, Kaden?
Yes, I am.
Why wasn't it a deal breaker for you?
Do you have a yucky house next to you? Tell the viewers.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrific. Someone buy it and make it better, please. It's horrible.
Someone buy my neighbor's house. Make it better. Make it pretty. But no, I don't mind the neighbor's house looking junky. We have a privacy fence, and it was the location I wanted.
When you bought your house, did it look bad?
My house?
The neighbor. No. When you bought your house, did the neighbor's house look bad?
Yes.
And it didn't deter you?
Didn't deter me, no.
In all fairness, though.
I knew they would sell it eventually. There was a tenant there, and
But in all fairness, you can't see your neighbors' houses from your house. There's so much vegetation down the side of your houses that you can't see them. If you were in more of a beachside or a cookie cutter neighborhood where there isn't vegetation and there's no way you can't see that.
Just ask people this because we were talking about this before, and 99% of people said yes, it was a problem for them. Jason said it was a problem for him. When I just canceled a sale because during the inspection period, the neighbor came over, and that turned out to be a problem for the buyer. So
I just did a Facebook post, and about 85% of people said it would be a deal breaker for them because they don't want to have to deal with having to go to the city, having to complain, having to be that person, having to do the fight to try and get it.
maybe it depends on what exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah, if they've got, cars that aren't running all around the yard and stuff like that, maybe, but mine is just really overgrown and needs paint.
if you can't have the home that you've envisioned yourself building your family on and moving into, if you can't have that exact home today, do you wait a year or do you buy something that will fit today and then move up to that dream home later?
My number is 12.
I'm sorry?
How many times? That's how many times I've moved to get to my dream house. My very first house was a beachside, smaller, 1,800 square foot ranch. Then I built a home. Then I moved to Hunter's Ridge. Then I built another home. I've moved 12 times to get to the house that I want to be my final house. When I take out new buyers and they say, I'm 25 years old and I know I want to have 4 kids, this house isn't big enough for 4 kids. You don't have 1 kid yet. So why don't we find a house that's for 1 or 2 kids, maybe even 3 kids? It just needs to be a good investment so that when you're ready to sell it, you can get out of it and move up. But I couldn't afford this house ever if I had waited from the first time I purchased it, 23 years old, to buy this. I could have never saved them and I could have never gotten here. The way I got here was to make money on every house and do it 12 times. And now I have a very small mortgage on my dream home.
Yeah, I think the key is investment. When you said investment, it doesn't necessarily have to be like you don't have to choose to rent because you can't buy your dream home, but you can invest. So you can invest in a starter home or that mid-size home and then use that to make the money for your dream home. Because like you said, if you're trying to save up $200,000 for a down payment on $1 million home, there's no way. But if you buy a home and then in 5 years resell it, the chance of walking away with 6 figures are much better than you trying to just save that out of your paycheck every week.
Every single one of you guys have bought a first home that was definitely not your dream home. I think Amanda was scared of her first home and made really good money on them and been able to purchase your next homes with the same mortgage payment as your old home, knowing your second home was so much bigger in a nicer neighborhood. It had much more to offer.
Not only that, I'm on 5. I'm on
2.
I'm on 2, but I've moved 7 times in 10 years.
Well, you're on your second purchase.
But I've also bought flips.
You're on your second purchase. You're on your 5th.
So, improvements do you think sellers make the best returns on?
Paint. 100%. Also flooring. If it's like really outdated carpet and you replace it with like a pretty wood look vinyl, it can make such a huge difference. You can usually recoup it on the price.
So the only trick is I don't like when they put like a new vinyl that runs into an old vinyl and a tile. Like I feel like you got to be a little bit careful because people don't love mismatched flooring.
I have a psychosis about to one.
Ooh, a psychosis.
2 floorings that are the same product cannot touch. So in other words, if you have wood in your house, it cannot touch a different wood.
But I disagree.
Wood to tile, but not wood looking tile. Wood to tile, wood to carpet, vinyl to carpet, but you cannot piecemeal your house together by doing a vinyl in your living room and then a year do a different vinyl in the bedrooms. And
What happens with this psychosis? Do you see? Oh, wow.
it does, because sellers think they're doing a good thing by replacing the flooring, but if you can't do it all at once, then make them different materials. Do the bedrooms in carpet and do the house in vinyl. But you can't have 4 different vinyls and a tile and a wood and like in one house. When I walk in a house and I can see 5 different floors from the front door, I want to vomit.
I get that complaint all the time from buyers that there's way too many different mismatched flooring.
That I always do to my listings that I think makes a huge difference for very little
I
money.
know what you're going to say.
Pressure washing and landscaping.
Landscaping was a huge project.
Landscape curb appeal.
You know, landscaping can be cheap, but it can also be very expensive. depending on how
Landscaping
you
is
do it.
surprisingly expensive.
Yeah, it is.
But you can have somebody economically just weeding, mulch, and pressure washing alone makes a huge difference.
Sometimes we have a co-listing right now, and the house kind of looked yucky, but we were worried that if we pressure washed it, then all of the paint would peel. So we had Fred put in nice looking plants with fresh mulch, and it literally changed the whole look of the house. It's beautiful.
I have a listing coming up next week, and from first impressions, the paint, it was very orange. It was in the trails, very orange wood siding house. The landscaping was a little bit, older. So we just very cheaply improved landscaping with some new mulch I think we spent $400 on mulch, pressure washing the driveway, and then we painted the exterior a nice neutral color, and it really changed the whole look of the house.
The before and afters of that house, like before, I probably would have driven by, but after, I was like, ooh, it's very cute and cottagey.
We did all of that for less than $5,000. So
How much do you think it's going to how much will the seller be able to increase his price because you did that?
I could say easily 10,000. I can make up $10,000 in price by just improving the exterior.
Yeah, all day long.